CATL is the undisputed winner of the automotive battery race by volume. Does that mean they make the best batteries, or just some pretty good ones, or just some that are the best for specific applications? That's one of the things they discussed in their recent presentation. And that's great and all, but I need me some context. So I went and watched a video by Jordan from The Limiting Factor, and I needed more context, so I brought him on to set me straight, because I've got some misapprehensions and some misconceptions, and I need to be straightened out on this. We're going to talk about three things. One is their super fast charging LFP cells, another is their semi-solid state, and the other is their sodium batteries. This is going to be a whole bunch to cover, and we're going to cover it as quick as we can. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza. So Jordan, I don't know if you know this. This is a big breaking news, but this coming weekend, just tomorrow, it begins on the 5th. I know this says 6 days. Ignore that. That's because we recorded this in the past. We are time travelers. We move forward through time at a 1:1 ratio. It's very slow, and it ages me terribly. But this is coming up just tomorrow. If you're in Michigan or can get there by Saturday's all the panels, Jordan and I will be speaking at this event. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. This is your second year, third year?
Third year. My heart skipped a beat there for a second when you said tomorrow, because it's like, wait, it's next week.
Well, you have to do the time travel first, Jordan. And as viewers can attest, you now have. So we are there. Yeah, that would stress us both out tremendously. I'll be flying out Wednesday night. I get in Detroit Thursday morning, and then off to Muskegon. So yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. Join us, won't you? Tickets on sale now, teslamichigan.org. Now, I think you know this, but you covered the CATL event, and there were some big things in there. The first one I wanted to cover was that a lot of people like to talk about the best battery, the best. CATL is saying, and what you appear to have reiterated, is that there is best for whatever it is you're doing. You've got a spider diagram. I don't care if the battery has 1,000,000 cycles, as opposed to, say, 1,000, if it costs 1,000 times more. I don't want a $5 million battery. That's too expensive for my use. So value is a big one, but cost, the charge rate, the thermal stability. Is there such thing as a best battery for automotive use?
Basically, the way CATL phrased it at their event was that all of these batteries have strengths and weaknesses, and we try to bring out the strengths and try not to dwell too much on the weaknesses, because it's easier to capitalize on the benefits. So I wouldn't say there's one best battery for automotive use cases, but they've narrowed it down to two at the moment, which is nickel batteries and LFP batteries, which is just the cathode. And then maybe someday in the future, we'll see increasing amounts of sodium ion powered vehicles. But really what they're doing there, from my perspective, is expanding the floor rather than taking market share from like LFP and NMC. It was CATL almost badmouth their LFP batteries at the event, which really surprised me. They said, hey, if you're buying a vehicle and it's over $35,000 and it's not a high nickel battery pack, you're kind of doing a disservice to your customers. And they sell LFP batteries. That's their major
A
product.
ton.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So for them to say that, I was like, okay, that's interesting. They're trying to sell more of their high nickel battery packs, because potentially they're higher margin. But what they're saying is also true. If you want the best handling, the best performance all around vehicle, you use a high nickel battery. So you have different battery chemistries for different tiers and different price points.
So what is the C rate, and what is Tesla versus, say, some of these newer ones?
Oh, I was very impressed with what CATL is doing with charge rates and BYD, because I was impressed a year or two ago with what they were doing, but they've just hit another level now, where it's C rates of 10 to 15 C, which that's like how many times you could charge the battery in an hour, basically. With a 10 to 15 C rate, you're fully charging the battery, or mostly
Right.
charging the battery in less than 5 minutes. Fully charge it in less than 7 or 8 minutes, something like that.
It's insane. When you look at a normal good battery, it was not that long ago that 6 was a claim you would be skeptical of. And when I saw the BYD one, the CATL, my first response was skepticism. And then Kyle Connor went out and tried one out himself and recorded it and saw that this is legit. This is real. And it seems they have overcome some obstacles. I don't think these are critical in the US where we have access to home charging for the most part, but for Eastern China, where most people live in multifamily dwellings where you may not have access to charging, I can see wanting a charge as quick as gassing up being a real removing a big hurdle. Your take?
Yes and no. I think I looked at this a few years ago and they didn't have that many fast chargers in China. They were still relying heavily on these slower chargers, which surprised me when I look into it because when you see on the media, it's always showing, all right, they have these fantastic chargers that can put out like 1,200 um, kilowatts or something like that. And the future is here, but it's not evenly distributed.
Yes.
And there's even a guy in China that I keep in contact with who he actually did a teardown, and he does teardowns of these batteries. He does tests, and he shares the information with me. And so he took one of these BYD batteries out, and instantly it just didn't work. The charger couldn't handle it. It didn't have the software updates, etc., and the battery got extremely hot. So they can hit these charge rates, and I think they can do it with long cycle life, but you have to find a charger that can actually provide that amount of power. That's the sticking point, and my guess is it will cause some additional degradation to the battery,
Sure.
but within acceptable limits. Because most people aren't, they're not going to be driving a million miles with their vehicle anyways.
Right.
Would you rather have a vehicle that can charge in 5 minutes and can go 400,000 miles, or would you rather have one that's where that's inverted, where it
Yeah.
charges much slower, but you get a million miles.
Right.
So it's finding the right balance of qualities, which I think they do. So I think the cycle life is going to be fine. Yeah.
That's my take is what I've been telling people is, yeah, it'll shorten your life from, 4 times longer than you will ever drive a car to 2 times longer. It's still going to outlive the vehicle, and what this also means is that you're going to see more second use, end of life, applications for these batteries, whether that's off grid, whether that's in stationary storage. I assume you kind of ignore it, but when it comes to the claims from BYD, CATL, LG, Panasonic, SK, those are ones that you're more inclined to believe. Is that fair to say?
That's definitely the case. And one comment that I made in my video is that like there's a lot of manufacturers that overhype these battery technologies. CATL, I would say their hype is just about right on point because you want to get people excited, but you don't want to mislead people. And I most of the hype that I see that goes overboard, it's typically from influencers
Mm,
pumping up what they're doing, and then uh, the fan base they get it excited about it, and it kind of feeds on itself.
yeah,
So yeah, it's you have to put it this way, you have to listen very closely to what companies like CATL and BYD say, because I've never really heard them say anything that's terribly misleading, but people, the way they word it causes a lot of the fans to interpret it as more positive than it is. For example, several years back, CATL said, we're going to start building an industrial base for sodium ion batteries. And that was in 2021. Well, they were very early days
mhm.
because we didn't, they don't start mass manufacturing those batteries until the end of this year. So 5 years gap between them when they said that, and everybody assumed that the market would get taken over by sodium ion batteries in 2 to 3 years. And here we are 5 years later, and that hasn't happened yet. And it won't happen for several more years.
What I do to find the signal in the noise is I go straight to their website's press releases and just read them, because they do choose their words carefully. And those big companies, CATL, BYD, Panasonic, and all the rest, do not have a history of promising the stars and not delivering. Uh, but then again, a lot of their announcements are, hey, we found a way to get 4% more efficiency in 2 years. When I see that, I say, that's quality engineering. That's all it is. I believe you. Uh, so with that said, let's mention sodium. We're seeing some impressive watt hours per kilogram, not as much impressive watt hours per cubic liter. Uh, is that coming along?
It will be coming along at the same rate or similar to the gravimetric energy density, but there's always an inherent gap between those. So, yes, the watt hours per kilogram going up, and the watt hours per liter is likely also going up. We don't know because they don't tell us. They don't advertise that because this is what I'm talking about. Reading what they say carefully, you have to have a broader understanding of what a sodium ion battery is and how it works. So the watt hours per kilogram is going up, and so is the watt hours per liter, but it's still there's probably at least, I'm guessing, a 30% gap between the 2.
Okay.
So for the same watt hours per kilogram with a high nickel chemistry, you would get 30% more volumetric energy density compared to, like, a sodium ion, for example. Yeah.
So it's what I'm trying to tell people is it's not the weight that's making your range short. It's because they ran out of places to put the batteries.
Mhm.
And if you
And
yeah,
yeah, a lot of people argue that, well, why don't you just make the battery pack bigger? Well, there's always a compromise. You either have to push up into the passenger cabin and take up space there, or drop the floor of the vehicle so you reduce ground clearance. There's no free lunch.
or make the wheelbase unacceptably long, or start putting it into a weird shape that blows the cost through the roof. Yeah, they've thought of these things. I promise you, folks. Solid state, semi-solid state, how's that coming? Because CATL had some words on that.
Well, it's solid state is just creeping along as it has been. Most people don't know this, but the first commercially available solid state battery actually occurred like 15 years ago. We've had solid state batteries are here and they've been here for a long time. And then, that started increasing about 5 years ago, and it's really starting to move now.
Mm.
So there's several gigawatt hours of solid state battery production now. I forget how much it is exactly, but they are coming along. But one thing that came up in this presentation is like a year or two ago, they said we have a 500 watt hour per
Oh,
kilogram battery, the condensed matter solid state battery or semi solid state battery, because it still uses a gel electrolyte, so it's not pure solid state. But uh, I was suspicious of that 500 watt hours per kilogram. And this year they said, oh, we're also going to have an automotive version that's going to be 350 watt hours per kilogram. It's like, okay,
okay.
well, that's 350 watt hours per kilogram isn't that much beyond what we currently have. And the watt hours per liter of that battery cell is actually worse than
Oh,
Tesla's current Panasonic battery cell. So yes, it has great watt hours per kilogram, but it's not even up to scratch with the volumetric energy density of current leading liquid electrolyte battery cells.
and that's what I'm seeing with a lot of these bold startup claims is that, like, if you look at the donuts over at Donut Labs, their claims were outrageous because it checked too many boxes, and of course we now know that that was overstated. But their charge rate wasn't even comparable to LFP, advanced LFP in China. Their energy density per kilogram was good, but not shocking. And when it comes to CATL's 500 watt hour per kilogram, maybe those are for uh, flight. Maybe those are for aviation or something where the cost is less critical. So I think that would be an interesting way. Now, a question I have for you, and this is one that I've never heard answered, is would my potato battery be solid state or semi solid state? Because I mean, it is damp, it's wet.
It would be liquid electrolyte
Okay. Well, then never
because
mind
they,
my
because
patent.
because the ions would have to move through a fluid instead of a solid, not a gel or a solid. It would be moving through a liquid. Is That's my guess. I don't exactly know how a potato battery works. You've stumped me.
Mm.
So
Oh, so yeah, it is the electrolyte. You've got your anode and your cathode, and there is, I mean, it works. But I will not try and power a car with that. It would be hilarious to
that's
do it.
that's actually a really good analogy that you've just given me, because if you look at a potato, if you people peel up in their battery cells like a 2170 or something, it's like, well, it's mostly dry. It's like a little bit of moisture in there, but there's not much at all. And it is like a potato. When you cut open a potato, it just doesn't leak water everywhere
Mhm.
because there's a certain amount of porosity in there. So it's almost dry after you slice the potato, but it's a little bit damp, and it's the same thing in a battery cell.
I'm here to educate you, Jordan. You knew
Mm.
this was coming. Uh, Last one I wanted to ask is, have you seen anything about prologium?
I've heard of them. It's something I encountered them several years ago from memory, but there's just so many of them. I don't know specifically, what they're working on and how they're progressing.
So I will give you some quick backstory and not make you answer the question because you haven't seen it. 2-Bit Da Vinci was invited in. He was allowed to film everything he saw, and he was allowed to publish everything he recorded. They've been working on solid state batteries for 20 years. That's a lot more believable than a company saying we've been working on them for 2. And they are ready to commercialize. They do have a production line. They're putting them in, like, I don't know, phones or electronics, very small cells. Basically, I was saying that on the Prologium battery, they're not saying anything crazy. They're not making huge claims. They're not saying it's going to be super cheap. It'll be reasonable, and that it's still, for automotive sake, not quite ready. It'll be an interesting one to watch. In terms of our discussion today, is there anything I'm missing or forgetting to ask?
No, no, but I will have to look into Prologium because,
Oh, is that how it's
uh
pronounced?
oh, I'm not sure
I
how
don't
you
know.
pronounce it.
I don't
Because a few people have asked me about that in a few weeks, and I was like in the past few weeks, and I'm like, "Oh, somebody must have done a video." So,
Mhm. 2-Bit Da
now that
Vinci's where I would start.
yeah.
Ricky does great work. He's a great guy. So, guys, in the comments, what did we miss? What do we misunderstand? And the biggest question of all, are you coming to Tesla Owners Club of Michigan summer meetup tomorrow? Friday is when it starts. Saturday is when it continues. Rivian will be offering test drives. Tesla will be offering test drives. Jordan and I will be offering high fives. Complimentary tips, welcome. Everybody else, like, subscribe, do what you do. Head over to Jordan's channel, The Limiting Factor. And if you can't get enough, if you're a Patreon on either Patreon, Twitter, X, or on YouTube, do you do YouTube memberships as well? You get the
Mhm.
videos a week early. You're coming out ahead. Everybody else, stay tuned, stay juicy, and I can't wait to hear from you, clever robots in Michigan.